Welcome to the SpringGR podcast. I'm your host, Alendrea, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at SpringGR. Here at SpringGR, we believe entrepreneurship changes lives and our community. On this show, we bring you stories, lessons, and strategies from our alumni and community partners who are building bold businesses right here in West Michigan. Today, I'm joined by Alfield, a SpringGR alumni. We're going to talk about systems and creativity. Hi, Alfield.
How you doing?
Tell us about your business.
Yes, my name is Alfield Reeves, editorial and portrait photographer. I've been doing photography for about 11-ish years, 8 years full time. So
you're in the game.
Yep.
You're doing it big.
Mm-hmm.
So what drew you to photography?
So I've told the story like so many times. But sophomore year at Western Michigan University, I had a friend of mine, shout out to Bree, she was a media studies student, and she was working on like a project for class. So she needed some like hand models. I volunteered. So during the session, I was kind of asking a bunch of questions about photography and things of that nature. And she was like, "Yeah, you should try it." So I had like $300 saved that summer for what I don't know, but put on Facebook, anybody selling a camera. Bought one from somebody from my church at that time, and just started experimenting on campus. So stuff with Bible study, fraternities, those type of things, senior pictures, et cetera, et cetera. The rest is history, basically.
That's crazy. I love that for you. So when did you go through SpringGR? Like, at what point did you realize, I think I might need some help?
Right. So I was probably part of one of the first classes. So I graduated. I was working at a place called Restores. So around 2015, and my boss at the time, Kathy Carrasco, I think she was on staff with SpringGR. She was like working with them, so she was teaching classes and things of that nature. So she knew that I did photography like on the side. She was my boss, so she was like, "Yeah, you should try it and see what happens." So yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So you've been here, yes, because SpringGR started in 2014. So you were one of the first few cohorts. So like. That was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
What does that look like? How have you seen SpringGR change since the first couple of cohorts?
I was gonna say the money has gotten bigger because the awards. That's a good question. I think outside of that specifically, I think just what they're doing and the different types of businesses that they're trying to help, especially like people that have been doing it for a long period of time and earning a certain amount and helping them scale and those type of things. So I think growth, as any business does, I think they've grown as well too. So
I love that. So define your creative style. What does creativity look like for you and your business?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before.
Exactly.
Creative style. I would say it's a combination of like preparation and just freedom. So I'm very organized. I'm very intentional about all the things that I do. So in terms of the preparation aspect, in terms of writing things down, preparing that way, for me that's part of like my creative process. Whether that be going into a project or something like that, but also just like still leaving space for freedom because I might have an idea at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a combination of those two things for sure.
And that's crazy because a lot of photographers, well, even me, I'm a marketer and I lean heavily in the creative space, but a lot of photographers lean on creativity. So when you're leaning on creativity, that means that you're like to the wind, right? So you're not always planning. Like, when did you realize that systems were essential? Like, I need to have something written down.
I think I've always been that way. Like, so for me, writing was like one of my first creative medium before I even got into photography. So I think for me, it's always been finding something that's helped me prepare to get what I need to get done. But also, like, with creativity, there's to a certain extent, there's really no bounds. Exactly. But I think being able to have, some things that at least I know, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this specific thing. That kind of helps lead you towards whatever the goal is and those things. So yeah.
So then what does growth look like for that?
Mm.
Because like, how do you grow a system? Like, okay, I'm recognizing like this is something that I need, but what does growth look like?
In terms of like the system aspect, that's a good question. I would probably say just, I think as your business grows and then as you grow as a person, as your creativity grows, figuring out what works best for you, because you know yourself better than anybody else. So if you know that you need to-do lists, then you need to, get to-do lists. If you know that you need a whiteboard, and like these are the type of things that help you focus and hone in on what needs to get done, I think that's those are the type of things that you have to figure out and make them part of your process.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember back when I first started doing graphic design and in marketing, I was using Canva. Canva was my jam, and my designs from when I first started compared to my designs now are like insane. Now granted, I still use Canva sometimes, but I'm more of an Adobe girl now. But like even then, I can see the progression, and I feel like if I had a process back then of this is how my creative process is laid out, this is what I do for every single design no matter what, and this is how it grows, like I wonder what it would look like now to have a process instead of starting my process later on. Yeah.
I mean, I think it just goes back to like the growth aspect, because if I look back at the first photo shoot I ever did, which was with a bunch of friends from Bible study in the chapel, like those photos look totally different than what my work does now. So a lot of that is just like at that point you're just doing whatever at that point, and you just kind of going with the wind, right? Per se. As well as just like growth and learning things and having mentors along the way and those type of things. So it's part of the process.
Yeah. So tell me more about like your style when it comes to photography. Like, what do you like to shoot?
People. So for me, it's people and stories. That's and that can be anything. So that could be a publication with a magazine. That could be a local nonprofit wanting to highlight their neighbors. So those it varies. But for me, when I think back to like the first photo shoot I ever did, we kind of did like these mini sets. But then we did a story where it was kind of like this couple. This guy was like kind of hitting on this girl, kind of a thing. So it's always been for me people and stories and telling stories, especially now with more black and brown people being the focus. So,
What does storytelling look like in a system? Like, what is that? How do you plan out what that story is going to look like?
I think starting with the end in mind. So in terms of, so I'll give an example specifically. Done some work with an organization called SpringGR. We have a project called Souls of the Neighborhood. And that project specifically, the goal was how do we highlight neighbors who've been in the neighborhood for 40, 50 years. Right? So they did a lot of the work in terms of having, neighbors select, these are the people that we feel like would be perfect for this type of project, because neighbors know each other. And then, the end of the goal is highlighting these specific people. So knowing that, for me, it goes with, okay, how many people are we going to highlight? Where do they live? How much of their story are we going to tell? What is going to be like the consistent theme? So for me, I wanted to do film and a lot of black and white. So a lot of black and white film kind of, there's like I don't even know how to describe it. There's like a depth to it when you look at black and white images, but specifically like film with the graininess to it. It kind of feels ancient per se.
Vintage?
Vintage a little bit.
Yeah.
So like those are the things, knowing what the project was about, that I wanted to use specifically, because I know it would kind of give like this stamp of like longevity, or this stamp of like they've been here for this period of time. So that was just some of the things that I kind of went into my process of thinking like, okay, this is what we're doing. These are the people that we're talking to and highlighting. And these are the type of things that I put into the process of deciding what this is going to look like. So.
And that sounds like it's a lot of creative energy. So with that being said, like, how do you protect that? To make sure that you're not, okay, I have one project, I'm wasting all of my energy on this one project, and now I'm tapped for the next 3 or 4 projects.
Yeah. So for me, like whiteboards, to-do lists, like those are the things that like I love, and that helps me stay organized, but also helps me stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
So usually it'll be like, okay, I'll write down what the project name is, what are the goals, who are we talking to, who are the people. So once I have those things, because for me it helps to see them visually, and even for me, like I've done in the past, where I've literally like drawn out what the actual shot would look like. So it's like, okay, this is exactly what the shot's gonna look like. So when we go and shoot, this is what I'm looking for.
Yep.
So for things like that, some things are more specific, where it's like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, this specific thing, and some things is just kind of you have an idea, and you kind of know what the vision is, and then you just kind of go and see what happens on the day of. So.
That's cool. That's cool. And I feel like it's, especially since you are a full-time entrepreneur, it's hard to balance that because you're going to have a business to-do list of everything you got to do. But then you have your personal to-do list of everything that you got to do. So how do you balance? Like, what does your work-life balance look like? Are you shooting business on your personal time? Like, are you shooting personally? Like, what does that even look like?
So actually, I'm glad you asked that, because 2017, 2018, I got to a point of like being, I forgot what the word is, but like overwhelmed.
Burnt out?
Burnt out. So that was really a turning point for me of realizing, okay, I need to figure out a balance and figure out, well, not necessarily a balance. I like to look at it as, somebody said like balance is a myth, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Because for me, it's like we have priorities, and those priorities get the time that they need. In the order that they are provided to. So for me, it was okay. I need to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't work on Sundays. Then that means like not doing any work, not checking my emails, those type of things. So that was one of the main things, but also like not checking my email after a certain time in the morning. So like usually like noon or 10 to noonish. Like that's probably the time that I wake up, depending on the day. So usually I'm not checking my email till like say noon, and then usually like 10 o'clock at nighttime is when I'm kind of stopping.
We're cutting it off.
So being full time every day is different. You have you might have an early morning shoot, you might have a late night shoot. So it varies and it changes. But I think for me, being able to have these things are non-negotiable. These things are boundaries that helps you stay focused, and then as well as just making priorities for things that you enjoy. So like for me, Monday nights playing basketball is something that I do pretty consistent. So that's, for the most part, I try to make sure that doesn't get messed with in terms of time. But obviously,
things happen.
Yeah,
things happen.
So yeah, I think it's really just figuring out the things that are priorities to you, and really being like, okay, if this is important to me, it needs to get the proper time and attention that it needs.
So what are your thoughts then on structure?
In general, or like as a business?
I want to do in general, but then I want to do as a creative, because structure can look different for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's hard to have a structure as a creative. I think especially if you're running a business as a creative, I think there has to be structure, specifically in the business aspect. So there's something that I have templates for, like draft emails. So if I'm reaching out to somebody from a publication that I know I have to photograph them for the publication, I already have a draft kind of pretty much set for that. I have my contracts, those type of things that are pretty much set, where I can just send a link, plug and play, and then I have like a list of all the information that I've collected. So I think things like that make creativity much easier, and it kind of gives you more time to be creative, because like you don't have to worry about
the back end
making these things if you already made them and they're already set and ready to go. So yeah, I think structure wise, I think as a creative structure, from a business aspect, I think all those things. I think from just creating, I think you have to figure out what works for you, but also like you have deadlines, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm working on a project for an organization,
I got to get it done.
There's going to be a deadline when I need to get those things done. So knowing what that deadline is, kind of working backwards in terms of what needs to be done at a certain period of time, and all the information that I need to get beforehand, contracts, invoices, the process for that. So I think once you do a lot of the things on the back end, it makes more time to create, but it also enables you more like headspace to be able to create, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, being a creative and being a business owner, like it's a lot of work, and it's also a lot of on your mental as well too. And I know for me, like I am more organized, so that helps. But I know a lot of creatives who are not, and that's that's why you have to have, you know, either other people that can do it for you,
yeah,
you know, or you have systems and structure that can, you know, kind of help you with that. So
absolutely. And I feel like that's a perfect segue into our next question. So, what advice do you have for photographers who resist structure because they fear that it's gonna box them in? Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Because as a creative, I'm saying no every time. I'm
Right.
saying no every time.
Right. I mean, I think so. It was interesting. I heard somebody say something that the right, I think it was either the right restrictions or something like that, or the right creates freedom. So it's like if I know, okay, I have 3 months to work on this project, I have to figure out what needs to get done in that period of time, how it needs to get done, what is the process that I need to do to create, what helps me, you know, foster creativity. If that means going on a walk, if that means taking a drive, like you already know that, you know, for the most part, like you know what helps you and what, you know, what doesn't. So I think, you know, a lot of, based on, you know, specifically as a photographer, I know like you have to, I do a lot of writing, so I'm writing down, okay, these are the list of shots that we need to get done. Who's involved in each one of these shots? You know, where are they going to be? What time is going to be? So all that planning is necessary, and that structure is necessary for you to be successful. Because if you just go with the wind, then you might not get hired again.
Absolutely. So, like with that, how, if you had to start all the way over, what would be the number one thing that you are setting in place? Like, I need to have this.
As a creative?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. I think figuring out what are the things that foster my creativity. So if that's, so for me, I find inspiration in so many different places. So I can go on a walk and see something. So for me, it's going on a walk, it's movies, it's TV shows. I try to keep like my social media influence at a lower pace. So a lot of like physical books, photo books, traveling obviously helps because you're in different spaces, in different places. Going to museums, and I think one of the things I've also done specifically intentionally with going to museums and art is going to find museums and art shows that like aren't the same medium that is mine. Because I think for me that one, it grows appreciation for other arts, but also like I'm able to learn about other people's process and how they do things and those type of things. So that like broadens your, you know, creativity. So those are probably all the things that I would do, or have, you know, obviously have done if I did starting over would be.
I think that's unique though. So you were talking about like going and seeing other different types of forms of art. So to this day, what is your favorite art form outside of your own?
That's a good one. I would probably say writing, which is awfully close to me. And then probably just like painters and people that like
painters are different.
It's interesting because it's like I can take multiple shots of something. Like you create something and it's one of one, and it's like done. Like trying to make a duplicate of something that you already made.
That brush stroke is singular.
You know, it probably won't be the same. So like that's really unique. So I would say, you know, painters and then drawing is something I've been just kind of dabbling as a hobby, you know, here and there to kind of foster more creativity for me. So definitely those two.
That's awesome. So what is your favorite system that you use now? Like, is there a piece of technology that you're like, oh my gosh, every business owner needs to have this?
Google Docs.
Man.
Change your life.
The whole Google suite. Like,
yeah. The whole Google suite. So I mean, so like for contracts, like I have a general contract and then I have like wedding contracts when I do weddings. But like those are already set, and also what you can do is when you have it's funny because I was just talking to a photo mentee of mine yesterday about this, but like I have that set, so now I can send that link to people. They can go through, fill out the form, but then also on the back end you can create I think it's like I forgot what the sheet, an Excel sheet. So basically now I have a list of all these former clients, their name, their emails, when we shot, when they sign, what we're creating, all those things. So then also now I take that and use that for my quarterly newsletter that I have. So now all those things are already done. I don't have to do that. I don't have to create a new contract for somebody. Obviously that depends on
depending on what type.
Yeah, here and there. But loosely, it's the same. So now I have that pretty much set for everything. So and that just makes your life much easier, because then also now I can create an email template. So all those links are already set. Plug in their email, a little intro, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
It saves you a lot of time.
So systems are something that's pretty big with SpringGR too, because we kind of drill it in you to make sure that you have some type of system, some type of method, some type of opportunity for yourself to get organized. So what have you taken advantage of in SpringGR that kind of helped foster that creativity, foster those systems?
I think one of the first things that I remember taking the class was separation of business and personal, in terms of finances, and to me that was important, because it's now again you have something that's separate, obviously separate just from a legal standpoint, but I think it makes your life much easier as a business owner, because now everything funnels through that. So you have a business credit card, business debit card, business account. Business email, business website. So all these things are separate, and people can just go to these specific things. You don't have to worry about that cross contamination, so to speak. So it just makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
And definitely it's a benefit.
And then you're a mentee. So how has that helped with your creativity? How has that helped with your systems? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing with getting a mentor was accountability. So just having somebody where I can talk about on business, specifically the business aspect, on a consistent basis. So they can, hey, how what does your numbers look like? What are our goals? What are we trying to do this year? What are we pivoting to something different? Are we pivoting to something else? So I think for me the main thing was having that accountability, which helps you stay on task and help you kind of, in a sense, if your system is to-do list, right? For me, okay, now I know I need to get these things done before our next meeting. Or these are the things that we talked about that we need to accomplish before our next meeting. So it helps with accountability. It helps with keeping on track, and making sure that you're accomplishing the things that you're supposed to, or things that you want to anyway. So
yeah, I love that. So any final piece of information that you would give for the entrepreneurs?
That's a good one. I would say consistency, and I think the hardest thing about consistency is oftentimes it looks like doing the same thing over and over, and it feels like you're not actually accomplishing anything. So if that's for me, I take walks every day. So going on a daily walk is something that helps for my mental, but also helps me be creative, and I get plenty of ideas just from walking and seeing things. So then that's something I do consistently. So it becomes the wintertime, I don't want to go outside, but I know this is something that's helpful. So there will be times where being consistent in whatever it is difficult, because it feels like this mundane task that you keep doing over and over. But at the end of the day, it has its benefits. So
yeah. Okay, well, Alfield, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Alfield Reeves Photography. My website is alfieldreeves.com. And yeah, those are the two main places. So.
Love that. Well, thank you for joining us on today's episode of the SpringGR Show. And a huge thank you to Alfield for sharing his story and insights. If you'd like to connect with him, you can find him at the handle that's below at the bottom of your screen. To learn more about SpringGR and how we help entrepreneurs grow, visit us at www.springgr.com and follow us on all social media platforms at SpringGR Fam. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss future conversations with more inspiring entrepreneurs. And until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep growing. Bye.